Hello everybody, it's Brewski with another checklist. Been a little bit, but I've got some good stuff here. And I've got some new toys to play with, as you'll see when I get to the editing points here. Alright, so I've got another Retribution of Scyrah list for you here. This is for Steven. He wanted a 75-point list in Legions of Dawn, which I really haven't messed with yet, and I'm very tempted now after doing the list. So, check it out. First things first, I really have to go above and beyond and do something really crazy. We need two things. Here goes movie magic. Bling and tactical glasses. On. I look like a total geek, don't I? Well, anything for show business. Anyway, so Steven asked for this list because he was playing with some of his friends and they're all starting to get into themes. He kind of started the ball rolling on that and he wanted something that was workable with his Dawnguard. So I cooked this one up for him, and he's already put it to use. I gave him the list before a game, but here's the video. So, Steven, I really hope you enjoy it, man. So, your list is in Legions of Dawn for 75 points. You're using Helynna 1. In her battle group is a Chimera, a Griffin, a Manticore. Backing up the army, she's got 2 Arcanist Mechanics, a Dawnguard Sentinel Scyrah with a Jack Marshaled Griffin, 2 Ghost Snipers, a House Shail Artificer with a Jack Marshaled Chimera, another House Shail Artificer by himself, a unit of Dawnguard Invictors maxed out with the command attachment, and 2 max units of Dawnguard Sentinels, both with command attachments, rounding you out at 75 points. Backing up for a minute to go over the theme, what you get with Legions of Dawn. Number 1, Jacks can ignore Dawnguard when determining line of sight and can move through them if they can totally pass the models. And while Jack marshaled, Jacks get flanked, which means if a Jack is attacking something in range of a Dawnguard model, melee range, the model gets +2 to attack rolls and additional damage dice. That is a killer buff. It's basically, I think that's even better than Gang Fighter, but good God, if you get the Chimera or Griffin into melee near other Dawnguard units, those things are going to have buffs. Not to mention if you use the Arcanists, if you use Helynna's buffs, that's stacking madness. Good God. But it's only the Jack Marshaled ones. It's not her battle group, so keep that in mind, okay? Quick way to lose friends. Kick their butts really hard. Getting into the units. So, for your caster, you've got Magister Helynna. You know her, you love her. She fixes your Myrmidons. Her feat is Arcantric Aptitude. She removes all damage from shields. Friendly Jacks in her control range. While in control range, friendly models get +3 armor and don't experience crippled systems. In other words, Cortex, arms, legs, field generator. Lasts for 1 round. So again, that pumps up your shields, makes everything near harder to damage for a round, and can put a Jack back in the game if it's been damaged. Against a shooty army, I know you mentioned you were playing against Cygnar quite a bit. That's going to be really, really handy for you. It's going to keep you in the game longer and make you really resilient against a gunline or a shooty army. Her abilities, she has Field Marshal Conveyance. Her Jacks get Conveyance, in other words, which means other friendly models get +2 to magic attack rolls against enemy models within 5 inches of a Jack with the rule. So again, you don't have a ton of magic attacks other than Helynna herself or Artificers, but her battle group Jacks will basically extend their threat range to things close to them. So if you're going to keep your battle group Jacks close up, that'll make it easier to send defensive spells down the range. She can repair, very handy. D3 +3 in base to base. She has to be near a Jack to do it, obviously. Kind of a drawback, but not too bad. Tune-up. In base to base, 1 Warjack gets boosted attack and damage rolls for its next basic attack this turn. So she basically has to start in base to base, fix up the Jack, it goes into attack, and it gets boosted rolls. That's kind of handy, but it also puts her in harm's way. So again, be careful with that one. That's really a Hail Mary move, now that I think about it. If you're going to be relying on that, do it in the last turn you're expecting to get into. If you're going to charge Helynna into melee to try and do an assassination run, if you know it's going to come down to that turn, might as well use it. Weapons, she's got Redirection Blast. It's her beat stick, so it's also ranged, and it's her close combat weapon. It's 12-inch range, power 11 magical, and force grip. Instead of doing damage, she can push a model 3 inches in any direction if it hits. So rather than hurting something, you can move it out of the way. This is one of 3 really models that can actually push or manipulate movement on enemies in this list. So if you really have to pull something off a flag or out of a scoring zone last second, that's one easy way to do it. In melee, she does the exact same thing. It's a 2-inch, power strength 11, magical, and force grip. It can do the same thing in melee that it can in shooting, so kind of handy. As for her spells, one of the ones you're going to use the most is Deceleration. It's a self-spell. While in control range, friendly models get +2 armor against ranged and magic attacks for 1 round. If you're trying to keep blobs of infantry safe, and you have blobs of infantry in this list that people are going to want to whittle down, 2 max units of Dawnguard Sentinels are a damn tempting target to be shot at. You're going to want to use that spell. That's going to make it harder to damage them in the long run. Force Strike, 8-inch, power 12 offensive spell on a critical hit model is knocked down. That's good if you want to knock down a jack or something you want to be able to hit more easily in shooting. And you do have some shooting here, let's face it. Hand of Destruction. Friendly models in the battle group get an extra attack and damage dice against targeted model or unit. In other words, you pick an enemy unit and cast the spell on that unit. Your battle group will get an extra attack and damage dice against that thing specifically. It doesn't apply to a whole army. It doesn't apply to multiple units. This is not a buff to multiple jacks of yours. It's you target it, everything dogpiles on that unit. That could be good early or late game if you want to take something out quickly and easily. One way to do it. If you absolutely need to take out a hard target, another good one. That's probably really handy against Colossals and Gargantuans, I would think. Hopefully you're not going to come up too many of those. That's the one thing I think this list might have trouble with, but otherwise I think that'll make your life a lot easier. Obliteration, offensive spell. This is pretty powerful for her. Power 15, it's a 5-inch AoE at 10-inch range. Pie plate, man. Enough said. And Rhythm of War. Warjacks in battle group and control range can advance up to 3 inches after all friendly models have ended their activations in your turn. So at the end of everything, they all get to move another 3 inches. If you're trying to run up turn 1, good move. If you're trying to get them out of harm's way, another good move. Early game, you're going to be using Deceleration to keep your infantry and units safe. Late game, I think you're going to be using Rhythm of War, Obliteration, and Force Strike, depending on what you're actually trying to do. She is not going to kill an assassination if you can help it. She is there to buff your jacks, keep your infantry safe, and then she's a combat caster. That's your priority with Helynna. Okay, in her battle group, she's got a Chimera, ever reliable, very trusty, and very speedy. Arc Node, sling spells from Helynna. This is a good way to get Force Strike or Obliteration used earlier because it allows her to cast through that, giving you additional range. You can mark a unit with Hand of Destruction that way, or give Deceleration to something friendly that's further away. If you string out in a battle line, she's over here, your units are over here. Good way to make the spell go further. Apparition. During control phase, model can be placed anywhere within 2 inches of its location. Gets you a little extra movement, a little more head and fade, or a little more speed, depending on how you want to use it. Phantasmal Field. Model gets +1 defense against range and magic attacks for each focus point on it. If you load this up with focus, it's going to have higher defense against range and magic. You don't necessarily want to camp focus because you want to use it, but it does help to keep you safe early game. Field dependent. The shields, apparition, and phantasmal field all depend on the field generator. So if that thing is crippled and taken out, aside from Helynna's feet, that's pretty much just a standard jack. It doesn't have anything special to it at that point. Weapons, it's got 2 glaives. Power strength 12 weapons with open fist and combo strike, which means you can make a single attack at power strength 16. Combined with concentrated power from the Arcanists, you can buff this to pretty good strength. The thing in this list that's probably going to surprise your opponents, and this is just one point of it, is you have more light jacks than heavies, and they can take advantage of the theme buff, Jack Marshal Orders, and your Arcanists to be stronger, hit harder, hit out of their class, basically. These things are going to hit like some heavies in the game, which your opponent, if they haven't played this list and haven't played that theme, might not see coming. So use that to your advantage. It'll be killer. Your Griffin. So it's got shield, it's got fleet. If a model has 2 or more focus before normal movement, it gets +2-inch movement. Pretty nice. Halberd, power strength 13, range 2. Powerful charge, it gets +2 to charge attack rolls. So you want to get the charge with this model. You want to hit first, you don't want to hit defensively. It's got a shield at power strength 9. Obviously, that keeps it safe from, I think it's back strikes. It's a simple beat stick. This thing doesn't really rely too much on tricks and gimmicks. It's really just a good melee jack. I've seen these run in spam lists all the time. It's a good bet you're going to have this thing in combat more than the Chimera necessarily. For a heavy, you've got a Manticore. has force shields as usual. Force generator, the model gets +2 strength with the field dependent rule. If you add concentrated power to this guy, he's hitting way out of heavy class and will do some serious damage. That's probably your best bet to take on Colossals and Gargantuans unless you're doing combined ranged attacks from the Invictors or, you know, some other trick from Helynna. But I think it's your only heavy. It's going to be the thing taking out the opposite heavy. Weapons, it's got a Cyclone Cannon, 12-inch range, D3 shots at power 12. Magical and covering fire. It can basically place a 3-inch wall template. Anywhere within range and line of sight, a model entering or ending activation in it takes a magical damage roll at power 12. Less useful as cover, but given you have tons of models that can move enemy models, you know, that'll be fun. And Saber Fist ×2. Power strength 17 with the field generator. Open fists, not too shabby. Stack and power boost attacks and you can wreck people. Concentrated power pumps this up to 19. That's not bad. Getting into the rest of your list, you have 2 Arcanist mechanics. Magic ability that can cast spells. They repair D6. They can remove D6 damage points from a Jack in base to base. They have a wrench. You don't want to get them into a fight with it. Spells. Concentrated power. Target Jack in command range gets +2 melee damage for 1 turn. That's useful for everything you have. You're just going to want to throw this on things to boof. Just hit harder. Stacks with the field generator and the power generator on the Manticore. Can make your Griffin really badass, can take your Marshal Jacks. Even though they have orders that give them higher strength, this can take that even further. Plus your flank bonus, I mean, you get into ridiculous modifiers with this if you really think about it. I think you can potentially, if the planets align, by which I mean your Marshal Jacks have the right order and they're near Dawnguard models in melee range, you could have +6 to your melee damage. That's not bad. Empower Undisrupted Jack and gives 1 focus, even if it's not under disruption. Free focus. It eases the burden on Helynna if you want to use spells with her instead of casting and doling out focus to her Jacks. You've got a Dawnguard Sire with a Marshal Griffin. This guy does a lot of things and he's very versatile, okay? He is marshaling a Griffin for you, which is just a combat badass, and he is a combat badass, so these two really should stick together. Righteous Vengeance. If he has at least 1 friendly faction warrior was destroyed or removed from play by enemy attacks while within 5 inches of this model last round, during the maintenance phase, this model can advance 3 inches and make 1 basic melee attack. You kick my dog, I smack you. He's got Drive Righteous Vengeance. Confers that same ability on his Marshal Jack while in command range, so if this thing is around, if it's in range of a model that dies in the previous turn, it can advance and make an attack. That's a great way to get the Griffin into combat and get the charge, so do be watchful for that. Tactician. Dawnguard. While in command range, friendly Dawnguard models can ignore other Dawnguard models determining line of sight and can advance past them within this model's command range. Your theme bonus does not confer this to your infantry as far as I know, only the battle group Jacks. So this gives it to any Dawnguard in range. So this guy, while he wants his Jack Marshal Griffin with him, really should also be sticking nearby some of the units, either the Sentinels or the Invictors, because they're going to take advantage of this and it makes them a little more fluid in movement. Weapons. He's got a great sword. It's power strength 12, range 2 with Weapon Master, which means an extra damage dice. He's nothing to sneeze at. By himself, I wouldn't necessarily have him take on a Kato or Heavy, but he can definitely be a force to be reckoned with. I don't think you would necessarily want him in combat, but whatever. And he also has Iron Sentinel. While he's base to base with a friendly Jack, the model gets +2 defense and armor and can't be knocked down. It's a good way to keep him safe, so maybe he should literally be hiding behind his Jack until he starts giving it orders. Good way to run. Then you have 2 Ghost Snipers. I really love these models. I love that they go in any theme, and I love that they're just so damn versatile. It's ridiculous, okay? You've got Pathfinder, so it can move through terrain. Marksman. When the model damages a Jack or a Beast, you choose which damage track is hit. This is an awesome way to cripple systems. If you have both of them shooting 1 Jack, hypothetically, you can take out an arm or part of the movement, or, you know, if other units have damaged a Jack, you can cripple the Cortex, or really handy just to get a job done instead of scattering damage across the Jack and having to kill it the slow, hard way. Swift Hunter. When this model destroys a model immediately after it can move 2 inches, use this to hit and fade or get closer or further away from something, either way. This really pairs in with the gun's ability, Deadly Shot. The gun, the Arcane Cannon, is a 14-inch power 10 ranged attack. Deadly Shot just means if this model hits at range instead of rolling damage, you can auto-deal 3 damage, okay? You stand a good chance of killing single wound infantry with this guy. You're not necessarily going to kill a solo unless it's already damaged or has really low HP. Most of them have more than 3 from what I experienced. You're going to want to go with the auto deal 3 damage. You can even use that on bigger targets. This is really good if you're running up against heavier jacks and armor and want to whittle them down. There's no way in hell he's going to actually get past the armor. Auto damage. Very nice. I suggest you space these guys out. They could be units that go take flags for scoring, basically, in terms of your missions. I don't know that you necessarily want them to do that because you want them out of harm's way. I think put one on either side of your army so they can both take on a similar target, or keep them together to do the same thing, but I think spaced out is going to be better, and you're going to have more targets of opportunity as the game progresses. I think early on, together would work well, but maybe not towards the end game. So now we get into your House Shail Artificers. One of these is marshalling a Chimera. The other one is by himself, and you're really just taking him to use his Force Wall ability to keep a unit of infantry safe. It's not practical to use Deceleration because you're not going to cover 3 blobs of infantry, and these guys are pretty beefy, okay? You're going to want this one that's going solo to back up that 3rd unit of infantry. So going through his abilities, he's another Jack Marshal. He has Drive Field Reinforcement. When a Jack under command activates in command range, remove D3 damage points from the force field. So these already can regenerate, okay? This is a way to make that happen a lot more. I don't think the Chimera is going to see as much combat as Griffins do, but it's a way to keep it in play. It's got Force Barrier. Model gets +2 defense against ranged attack rolls and blast resistance. Set defense. Models in this one's front arc suffer -2 on the charge, slam, and power attack and impact attack rolls against that model. It's a good way to keep him from getting charged. For weapons, he's got Gauntlets. That's power, strength 13, and magical damage. And Combo Smite. Model hit is slammed D6 inches away. Damage is the strength +2 power. Okay, that's another movement ability that you have here. If you need to manipulate movement, that's one of the things that can do it. You usually see these guys in, good lord, you usually see these guys in Forges of War or Battle Mage lists, but they oddly can be taken in this theme, and I think they give a lot to it in terms of the movement, in terms of the defense buffs. You just kind of need them. For spells, he's got Force Manipulation, which gives him Polarity Field. He can't be charged or slammed. Force Wall, this is the ability you want to cast on a unit of infantry. Friendly model or unit, if in range, gets Force Barrier, which is that +2 defense against ranged attack and blast resistance. It keeps them a lot more resilient in terms of shooting early on. It'll keep them, especially with your Sentinels, it'll get them up in melee a lot easier. Magnabolt, range 10, power 13. If it hits, immediately push a model within 2 inches of the target model directly away or toward by 1 inch. You can mess up buffs, you can collide models, you can get them out of the way collectively. It's kind of handy either way. Here you've got 1 unit of Invictors with the command attachment. They have Assault, which means they have that combination gun sword. They can shoot on the charge. Great way to thin the herd before getting them into Assault if you have to. You really don't want to. If you have to, fine. Combined ranged attack. Multiple models can attack to give a cumulative bonus to a single shooter. This is a great way to make something stronger and hit harder if you do have a hard target to take out. Wall of Steel. And base to base with another model, models get +2 armor. They're harder to damage. If you group up your Invictors, it's going to keep them alive a lot longer. The officer has a mini feat, Extended Fire. Once per game, ranged weapons get snipe in the unit. So it's another +4 to your range. So instead of shooting, I think it's 10 inches, they get 14, which is really handy. Combined arms. While in formation, this model and the unit get combined arms. When they miss an attack roll for the combined ranged attack, it can re-roll the attack. Only 1 re-roll per attack. You can't re-roll a re-roll, in other words. Tactics. Reposition 3 inches. At the end of an activation where this unit didn't fail a charge or run, it can move 3 inches. This is great for hit and fade, getting them out of harm's way, moving them further up the board. Very versatile here. That's your infantry really is versatile. It can do a heck of a lot of things. I am normally a defenders guy. I have found a love for Legions of Dawn just going through and making this list for you, Steven. So good on you, man. I owe you one. Standard Bearer, pretty simple. Gives +5 command range to the officer. That's very handy in case you're using his abilities that rely on formation. And he can swap places with a grunt if he's going to get killed. It just keeps the banner in play, basically. These guys I envision being your take and hold unit. These ones are the ones you put in a scoring zone. Basically because they can shoot people off it, they can shoot people further away to keep them discouraged, and if they really have to, they can fight in close combat. Your Dawnguard Sentinels, you have 2 of these with command attachments. They have Vengeance. During the maintenance phase, if one more models in the unit were damaged by enemy attacks during the last round, each model in the unit can advance 3 inches and make a basic melee attack. Great way to get them into melee. Wall of Steel, base to base, at least one model in the unit gets +2 armor, same as the Invictors. That's a very good ability. The Officer again has a mini feat, Iron Zeal. Once per game, models in the unit get +3 armor and cannot be knocked down or stationary. They have to be information to their SOL, so you want your standard bearer alive for this one, and you want them information so they don't get too scattered. That's going to make them really, really tough. The turn where they're close to getting shot, close to getting damaged, could be charged, that's what you want to use. Tactics, Relentless Charge. Models in the unit get Relentless Charge, so while advancing in a charge they have Pathfinder. That'll make sure they can move through any rough or difficult terrain. Weapons, they have Great Swords, Power Strength 12, 2-inch reach with Weapon Master. They each, yes, each get an extra damage dice. Holy shit. This thing is potentially a way that you're going to take out jacks, tough units, gang up on a colossal gargantuan if you really have to and there's nothing else to do it. The boys can do the job. These guys are not defensive, okay? They don't have guns. You don't want them to get charged. Have them charge. Keep them on the offensive, run them up the board, and get them in as fast as you can. They are, I believe, speed 5, so they're not going to be the fastest things in the game, but still, that's what you want to do. Okay, so those are the units. Overall strategy, once again. You want Helynna using Deceleration to keep your units safe as she runs, and you get up the board. Have one of your Artificers do the same with another group of infantry. Use your Ghost Snipers and use your Jacks to take out targets at range and then close into melee. Use the infantry, the Invictors, to take and hold objectives. Get the Sentinels into melee as fast as you possibly can. Hard targets are going to be a trick to deal with, but you have a number of things that can do it. The Invictors can do combined range. You have a lot of stacking ability between your Arcanists. The flank bonus you get with the Marshaled Jacks, Jack orders from those Marshaled Jacks. Field generator on your Manticore. There's a lot of different ways you can crack hard armor if you have to. You just have to be really careful about it. The one thing that I think is an absolute perk in this list is you have tough infantry that's not likely to be outnumbered. You may run into armies where you have more jacks than you do, but again, your abilities also allow your light jacks to hit out of their range, out of their class. That is something your opponents will probably underestimate, so use that surprise to your advantage. Alright, Steven. Sorry I'm late on this one, but I really hope you like the list. I'm glad you won that last game you played. It sounds like your friends will catch up to using their lists. They may even reach out to me. I don't know, man. I don't pick favorites here. So either way, I'm glad I got to you first, and I'm really glad I was able to give you this list in time for your game. Alright, as always, people, if you have enjoyed this, if you want a list made, please do send me a comment or an email. If you want others to see this, please do share the video. I definitely want to keep growing the channel. Like, subscribe for notifications. You know the deal. YouTube algorithm gods seem to like that kind of thing, so I really do appreciate it when you do it. Anyway, I'm Brewski. I'll see you on the next checklist. Stay savage, guys.